what have I just done?
Okay, we're live on YouTube now, and I will start the webinar now as well. Thanks very much, David.
No worries. Brilliant. Right, bear with me. I guess I can start, so I'm going to start anyway. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's David Tovey. I'm an ex-homeless artist, activist, and campaigner. I'm also the founder of the One Festival of Homeless Arts. I'm the creative producer at Arts and Homelessness International. I'm patron of the GEM program, a postgraduate training program in the housing sector. I'm a core group member of the Museum of Homelessness. And finally, I'm a steering group member for What Next, a volunteer movement for change in the cultural sector. So, where do I start? I come from a very, very working class background, and I grew up in poverty down in a corner of Kent, where my dad only earned £80 a week, and there were 7 kids to feed. So at the age of 16, sorry, my notes have just disappeared. Right. At the age of 16, I joined the armed forces as a chef, and I traveled the world. After I left the armed forces, at the age of, I think it was about 22, I think it was at the time, I decided to move to Australia. And I was out there for a couple of years, traveling, working. And then I came back to the UK, set up in Plymouth for 7 years, and then decided to move back to London in 2007, where I was appointed head chef at the exhibition centres Earls Court, Olympia, Excel, and the Birmingham NEC Centre. These were quite full-on jobs, as you can quite imagine. And I only lasted there for 5 months because it sort of burnt me out. And then I was offered a job at the BFI, British Film Institute, on the South Bank. I was there for a while, but I was itching, going, oh, I really need to do something for myself. So I decided to open my own pub restaurant, which I part-owned in Euston. This was great, but the problem was that I used to work a lot. I worked 7 days a week. The pressure and the stress led me to drink a lot, and I partied a lot. And ultimately, this led to me having a stroke at the age of 36 in 2011. Now, normally, a stroke you can just get through depending on how severe it was, and you try and get on with life. But the problem was I was a chef and working in the kitchens, I couldn't really do it. And I lost so much of my memory. I couldn't even remember how to cook a basic recipe. So it was like telling a boxer that he couldn't box again. And I lost my career. And this led me to sort of like, I guess it was sort of like this led to a domino effect problems happening throughout my life since then. 6 months after my stroke, I was admitted into hospital with a thing called neurosyphilis, which was sending me crazy, and you can actually die from it. It was going into my spinal fluid, up around my brain, and sending me crazy, causing my hair to fall out, etc., and going blind. When I was in hospital getting treatment for that, 4 days after I'd been admitted, I got diagnosed with colon cancer. And even though it was quite a kick in the teeth for me to take, I was also quite thankful that I'd been admitted into hospital with this other thing. And through the lumbar punches that they found that I had cancer. So they actually got it at a really early stage. So all they had to do was cut it out. But 10 days after this diagnosis, I had a cardiac arrest, which was caused through an intermuscular injection being put straight into my vein. This caused me to have severe depression and anxiety and panic attacks for several years after it happened. But why this was all going on and the severe depression was taking place, I decided to try and end my own life by taking 5 overdoses in a week. Problem was, I knew that this wasn't me. I knew there was something else wrong with me. And then I got a phone call from Croydon Hospital about my bloods. Obviously, I'd been having lots of bloods taken because of the neurosyphilis and everything else which was wrong with me. And I remember being on the phone and I was jokingly, I said, "Oh, you're going to tell me I'm HIV positive?" And they said yes. And this gave me some answers, and I actually felt quite good about it, because I was like, well, actually, this explains a lot of why I've been feeling so bad. I actually laughed. So life started to get a little bit better. And this was coming into 2012. I decided to go to university to do an arts degree. My movement, my memory was all coming back. But then at the end of that first year in university, coming into the May, June time of 2013, I started to get ill again. My depression came back and I started to lose control. I started drinking and self-medicating. I wasn't paying my bills. And I was so scared about losing my flat, because I shared the flat with a friend of mine and I didn't want her to lose the flat. And I couldn't see any other option. And I went into a park on June 20th, 2013 and took a fatal overdose. I woke up in hospital at Euston, UCLH. And in hospital, they kept saying to me, "Are you going to do it again?" And my answer was yes. I have no other option. I wasn't working. I had no money coming in. How could I catch up with the debt that I was in? They decided to section me for a while. And when I came out of there, I went home and all the locks had been changed on my flat. I'd suddenly become homeless. So with everything else what was going on, this was just like another nail in the coffin for me. I then spent the next 5 months living in my car. I didn't use any homeless services, got myself in this mess. So I kept saying to myself, I'm going to get myself out of it. But my health deteriorated. I couldn't take my medication whilst I was in my car. Hadn't eaten for several days, and then I decided to go into another park late at night when it was all locked up, and started to end my life with a 2-gram crystal meth overdose. And then suddenly this man stopped me and he was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" That was Gavin Lane, a park enforcement officer. Not only did he give me my life back, he saved my life, and he gave me £10, got me some food, and got me into a cold weather shelter. Problem was, I had to give up uni to get housed, and as a student, you don't get housing benefit. So I moved into a West London Mission hostel in Camberwell for ex-servicemen. And here I had a safe place to start getting my health back on track. When I started to get back on my feet, to help with my recovery, I concentrated on making art, because art was my passion. It focused my mind. I went on to exhibit at some many great places such as Tate Modern, Tate Liverpool, Mayfield Depot in Manchester, and internationally in places such as Norway and Canada. You see, art gave me back my self-worth, my confidence. It helped with my well-being and showed how resilient I really am. And I know if it can do it for me, it can do it for others. I believe everyone can rebuild their lives through art. And so because of this, I built an arts festival. Why not? I ended up doing it with my disability benefit at the time. And I did it for those who were going through homelessness and who had been through homelessness. And I called it the One Festival of Homeless Arts. And this was back in 2016. We've only had 1 year off last year, obviously. But obviously, actually, this isn't providing housing. I never planned to. But it can provide a route to one. It did for me. You see, I've done photography exhibits and installations to even writing my own opera called Man on Bench Fairy Tale, which premiered at the Mayfield Depot in Manchester. My latest artwork, Unknown Soldier, highlights the struggles that people face when they leave the armed forces, with a shocking lack of resettlement and mental health support. In 2019, it was reported that 16,000 ex-servicemen were homeless or in prison. And do you know what? I used to be one of them. In the UK today, there are deep questions to be answered about how people who serve this country are treated. As society recently reflected on the centenary of the First World War, with fields of poppies, grand exhibitions up and down the country, I invite you, to consider the legacy of war and the situation ex-soldiers find themselves in now. I chose the name Unknown Soldier to highlight how little, and I mean how little, you will ever know about me and others who have been to war, while serving and after. On average, 70 veterans take their own lives every year in the UK. Many of those were homeless. Many have become a statistic. And yet again, I was nearly one of them. Now imagine leaving school at just turned 16, a young 16 at that. And within weeks, you're being taught to kill people. Imagine that. Now, if that was normal, they would be teaching us that in schools, but it's not. I think that explains the importance of this show and how hard it has been to make it. It has brought back so many memories, good and bad. I've been hiding from myself in years: joy, surprise, pain, trauma, forgiveness. The list goes on and on and on. And the traumas go on and on and on. You see, I will not shy away from the social injustices of this nation, how we fail to protect those veterans who protected us so that we can live in a safe and secure democracy, so we can sleep tightly in our beds at night. But what about those homeless veterans? Who's tucking them in at night? You see, I use art to protest, because it's pointless standing on a soapbox and preaching. No one listens. But art has the ability to bring the right people into the room who can make a change for those wishing to rebuild their lives. We know this from research. The International Literature Review of Arts and Homelessness by Arts and Homelessness International provides evidence of ways in which the arts can produce positive outcomes for people who are or have been homeless. The arts can increase well-being, agency, resilience, a sense of belonging, knowledge, and skills. While most of the activity described in literature holds the hands-on making of art, writing, designing, making, performing, etc., it also includes participating in the arts in the sense of going to a cultural venue, seeing an exhibition, watching an opera, or listening to a storyteller and perhaps discussing the experiences with others. The activities encompass art therapy sessions for a defined group of people, drop-in activities in hostels or shelters where people may be living or just spending a few hours, skills-based courses and classes, and activities in cultural and community spaces where people choose to attend as individuals or as part of a group. Almost all of the research is about impact of participation in the arts on people who are or have been homeless. We've not found any research at the moment of the impact of the media coverage of the arts and homelessness on public awareness or opinions of homelessness. This is something I'm working towards in changing that perception of how we perceive people who are or were homeless. The arts are not yet recognised as an essential service for people who are or have been homeless. In 2018, Crisis commissioned the Social Care Institute for Excellence to produce a rapid evidence assessment of what works in arts and homelessness services. Even though Crisis has been using the arts in its work for many years, the report does not mention the arts or creativity, let alone identify them as an essential homelessness service. This highlights the need for more consistent dissemination of research findings, publications, films, and recordings that explain and illustrate the role of the arts in the lives of people who are or have been homeless. Sadly, though, arts within the homelessness sector have traditionally been undervalued and never really taken seriously. Up until now, they've always been seen as an add-on to the work that already exists within our sector. But for the first time, it has more value than it's ever had. The arts are reaching people more than ever before, and COVID-19 is showcasing that everyone should have access to the arts. The value of arts has never been stronger because of COVID. Overnight, it became as important as medication, helping with isolation, resilience, and mental health in lockdown. TV programs and online workshops have exploded onto our screens, making the arts accessible to as many as possible. But there are always parts of society that fall through those cracks, and homeless communities being one of those. With a social issue such as homelessness, where people are faced with a multitude of challenges, a multitude of solutions are needed when helping someone get out of homelessness. As more countries develop arts and homelessness practice that reflects their national context and priorities, research and policy teams working on responses to the causes and consequences of homelessness may start paying closer attention to the role of the arts. I believe that arts and creativity has to sit alongside housing, healthcare, and employment. It's pretty damn obvious to me why. But as I said before, it helps build resilience. It gives you a voice. It helps with your well-being and your confidence. But fundamentally, arts and culture is a human right. Article 27 of the UNESCO Charter of Human Rights, and that means that those who are homeless have a right to access the arts. The arts and homelessness sector, though, is young, decades behind other social arts movements such as arts and disability and arts and health. But I put this to you. With 150 million people who are homeless worldwide, it can't just be about housing. We have to look at a more holistic model, wraparound of support services with the individual at the center that includes all aspects of support needs, not just the basics. My utopian view, and yes, this is in my faraway world, my utopian view of homeless services also involves changing the way we view those who are homeless. People think that they are always a drain on our society and resources. But if we really consider the value of people, then surely everyone is adding to society. Look what I've achieved because of the support I had and the support networks I had to recover. If you get this holistic approach right, with creativity embedded into solutions and working with people, not for them, magic can happen. Art saved my life and got me through my situation when I was homeless. It gave me an escape from all the shit in my life. It gave me the ability to access support, to rebuild relationships, and to make my parents proud of who I am. Surely everyone deserves that opportunity. Thank you. And I'm going to go on to questions, and I'm going to try and answer some questions. So do bear with me. Oh, very good question. What can we do to stop ex-servicemen being underserved when they return to public life? I highly recommend contacting your local MP, asking them, why is it that we have a military covenant in this country that is there to protect our less fortunate and most vulnerable in our society, especially with the veterans, and they have a responsibility to us to house us. So you can contact your local council. Every council has a covenant member. They have to by law. That is probably the first question. I also think that there is also trying to understand veterans. I don't think the general public really truly understand veterans. I also, let's have a look. How would you recommend people who are experiencing homelessness and who may be non-artists get involved in art? What should the sector do to improve access? Well, that's quite an easy one. Everyone's an artist. There's no such thing as a non-artist. It doesn't matter whether you're drawing a stick man or whether you're painting a Rembrandt. It's completely relative to what it does to you, for what it does in here to your mind. If you can get somebody concentrate on a piece of paper drawing for 2 minutes and for them not to think about their crap, then of what they're going through, then that's a really, really good thing. Can you tell me more about Arts and Homelessness International? I'm in the United States. Yes, you can contact me. I will put my email in the chat, which is david@with1voice. And I am more than happy to tell you everything about us. We are truly international. We do monthly sessions every last Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m. and 5 a.m. on Zoom, where anyone can sign in. You can get us on Eventbrite. So just check out Arts and Homelessness International on Eventbrite, but also, and then you can book into our sessions and also check out our website. What else we got? How would you encourage people to engage in the arts if it is not something they have accessed or tried before, particularly those who have experienced homelessness? Do you know what? That's a really good question. It's about creating a brave space, not just a safe space, but a brave space. Create somewhere where people can come and feel comfortable and just engage. So it starts with talking. If you create a place where people come and feel comfortable, they're more inclined to just sit there, scribble away, draw, converse, engage with you, with people in the room, the space. I think I do this at the Passage in Victoria. We go in every Thursday, we open up the room, we put donuts, we put cakes, we put coffee on the table, and we create an environment which people just want to come and sit in and enjoy the space. I don't have, you know, I don't say, right, you've got to sit here and do art. You can just sit and have a conversation if you want, because I think that conversing is part of the artwork. It's about getting people into a space. The more consistent that becomes, and this is where I think every hostel should have a space where people can come and sit, whether they want to read a book or whether they want to, you know, paint a picture, whatever it was, poetry, whatever, but have that space where everyone knows that that's what it's for, to just come and sit and chill, and it's their space. I hope that answers. I can talk all day about that subject. It's something extremely close to my heart. how can we make people have the headspace to be more creative and reap all the benefits you're describing? What can I do every day? Engagement. It's you. I think it's sort of like the previous question answers that as well. Having a space where people can just come and be, not do, but just come and be themselves, where there's no judgment. You know, you're not judging people. You're not saying, you know, you've got to fit into a certain mold to be in this space. And if you've got the environment, which is like, you've got like loads of books about, you know, plants in there, you know, paintings, their artwork all over the hostel. You know, if I had a hostel that I owned, right, I would be putting everyone's artwork up everywhere. You know, whether, like I said, whether it's a stick man, or whether it's a paint and red, it doesn't matter. And this is what we do at one festival. We open space and we take people's artwork, whatever they want to submit. As long as I've got space, I will hang it. I will put it there. And I think that's like the important thing. I think it's about allowing space, allowing time for people just to be, to have that space, to have that energy. Because not everyone, you know, and don't get me wrong, not everyone's going to be able to progress. But as long as they know that they can, if they choose to, then surely that's job done. I think I'm running out of time. So if there aren't any other questions, I'm just going to quickly see if I've missed anything in the chat, because there was quite a lot coming in, so I do apologize. How would you encourage people to engage? Yep, got that. Oh, one more. Do you think there are services that could have helped you when you were going through? Yeah, probably, yeah. There's a lot of services out there, but there's not a lot of places that direct you to it. So even though I would say that I was more hidden homeless, I stayed away from where other homeless people were, and so the street crews would never have found me, even if they'd tried. So yes, there probably would have been more help, but unless you've been through it, it's something you never really think about. You know, I never thought that I'd become homeless. Even when I was on the streets, I never saw myself as being homeless, because I had a car and I was sleeping in that. So I never really looked at it as being homeless. So yes, there probably were, but it got to the stage that I had to get to my lowest point before I'd accept help. And the problem was, I chose to end my life instead of asking for help. And that says a lot. But so many veterans out there are exactly the same. They'd rather take their own life than ask for help, because it's a pride thing. You know, you're taught as a soldier that you have to get yourself out of any situation. So you tend to persevere until it gets to the stages that it gets to. So yeah, I'm afraid I'm out of time. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for people tuning in. Hopefully you've learned something. If anyone wants to contact me, you can. I put my chat in there, but you can always find me on the Arts and Homelessness International website. You can find me on the One Festival of Homeless Arts, which you can find us on Twitter and Instagram and our website. And then there's also my own website, which I'll give a quick plug to, which is davidtoveyart.co.uk. Thank you very much, everyone. And I look forward to speaking to you all soon.